All right, we are recording.
Okay, the open meeting of the Triton Regional School Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, and the provisions therein is extended by an act related to extending the certain state of emergency accommodations, which was signed into law on July 16th, 2022. These provisions suspended the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. I hereby call to order the meeting of the Triton Regional School Committee on July 27th, 2022 at 7 p.m. I am Linda Lukowski, the chair of the school committee, and I would like to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Erin?
I'm here and I can hear you.
Susanna?
I'm here and I can hear you.
Paul Goldner?
I'm here and I can hear you.
Caitlin?
I'm here and I can hear you.
Matthew?
I'm here and I can hear you.
Paul Mayette?
I am here and I can hear you.
Marissa?
I am here and I can hear you.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Brian Forget?
Here and I can hear you.
Kyle Warren?
I'm here and I can hear you.
Anna Bates?
I'm here and I can hear you.
For this meeting, the Triton School Committee is convening remotely via Zoom using the information posted on the district's website identifying how the public may join. If you are personally attending by video conference using your device's camera, please be aware that others may be able to see you. Committee members and administrators, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the district's website with the agenda posting. Unless otherwise noted, the public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. I will read the vision statement. We are a community of learners known for our unwavering commitment to meeting the needs of all students. Through the adoption of best practices and our active partnership with families in the wider community who are united in supporting the development of engaged, successful, responsible, resilient learners, students will be well prepared to be ethical, empathetic, and contributing citizens. The chairperson's remarks. I hope you're all enjoying your summer and taking advantage of this nice weather that we've been having. And thank you all for attending the meeting. I just wanted to give a reminder that there's a tentative meeting date on the calendar saved each month, and it's used only when necessary. The tentative meeting is scheduled for the fourth Wednesday of each month. If members could just mark their calendars for those tentative meetings dates, just in case it's ever needed. Brian sent out an email that a few tweaks had to be made to the meeting calendar for the coming year. The school committee Google Calendar has been updated to show all the current dates for events that are going to be needed for this year. I don't know if you wanted to say anything to that, Brian.
Just to reiterate that there's the PDF that I sent out, and then just so you all know, I think you can subscribe to the Google Calendar on the website. From the website, you can subscribe to each of the each individual schools. There's a district-wide events and there's a school committee calendar. So if you're a Google Calendar user or some type of iCal user, that will go right and feed into your calendar. So that calendar is updated, as well as the PDF and the website. Just to note, the new website that we are still on schedule to launch in September will pull in the same calendar. So it's actually even more, we'll call it Google dependent.
Okay. We are trying to streamline our process and maximize the attention and use of board docs by redirecting everyone to go to board docs to get information on all past and future meetings. Brian contacted the AG's office about the possible use of board docs to satisfy our posting requirement. And I'm sure, Brian, you'd want to.
Brian always has words. Yes, to confirm that, I emailed the AG's specific open meeting law, the hotline, but it's through email. Nicole Stouty, my assistant, who's here taking minutes, was also CC'd. So we got a response from an assistant AG that if you look at the way on board docs that our meeting is posted this evening, if from the featured, you can click into the meeting. When you get to that meeting where it says school committee meeting remote 7 o'clock, before you click in to view the agenda, you'll notice on tonight's meeting, it now says remote meeting, click view agenda to see connection details. Then right below that, it says posted Wednesday, July 20th, 22 at 9:40 a.m. So the one piece that board docs cannot do automatically with a kind of a automatic timestamp is put the date and time that a meeting is clicked from draft to live. But in working with the AG, and when I say working, one email and they said it works, they said that the law says that it has to be, I forget the exact language, clear and apparent when the agenda was posted. So they said that this meets the open meeting law requirement as far as the posting requirements. Subsequent to that, if anyone ever wanted to challenge that on the back end, board docs could produce an audit trail that shows when the meeting actually shifted from draft to live. So that is something that obviously board docs works with public bodies, so they have that functionality built in. In Massachusetts, everything is usually one step harder, so we have to actually put in there and note it. So in the future, when Nicole's posting a meeting, she'll just, as she's ready to say live, she'll just go in and edit that and put the date and time. That satisfies the law. So I saved the email, Nicole saved the email, Nicole printed and filed the email, just so if anyone ever asks, we've got that email says that says that this works. So what this means is we're not going to have a separate place on the website where the PDF agenda will be posted. The website will have a quick description and say that all agendas and information and postings are on board docs. Please follow this link. We'll also have on the new website a link to all the historical agendas and minutes. I think we currently have through 2012, and actually have been chatting about digitizing 2011 and prior, so that people can still access all of the prior documentation that's not in board docs. So that we're not going to make a lot of shifts other than this posting for now, but when the new website launches, you'll see that current page disappears.
Thank you, Ryan. Does anybody have any questions on that? The next item is the oral communications from the public. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Members of the public, the meeting host muted you as you entered the meeting. If you would like to address the committee, please indicate now that you would like to do so by raising your hand on your video call using the raise hand option on the participant screen. The meeting host will unmute you so that you can address the committee. Please refer to the public comment policy language on the agenda when making your comments, and remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. When you have finished speaking, the meeting host will mute you again. So there is nobody from the public still, correct?
Correct.
Okay. New business. Would any members like to raise items for inclusion on a future agenda? Okay, the next item is SEL curriculum adoption. As you will remember, there was a new position created in the budget for the coming year for social emotion learning at the elementary school level. The administration is going to present a curriculum proposal to the committee tonight.
So I'm going to quickly hand this right over to Anna and Julie, but just to note that when you were reading off the staff that would be talking, Julie also will be speaking. So I'm assuming you can hear us, and yes, you're okay there. Yeah. All right, good. So I'm as Linda said, this was a new position that we added in the budget. We're excited. Of course, we would love 3 and have a teacher at each elementary, but we thought as a first step, it made sense to hire 1 person and share between the 3 elementaries. So Julie Benson is that person. So I'm going to hand this over to Anna first, I think, and then who will also have Julie give us a description and ultimately ask you to vote to adopt the curriculum that we are presenting here tonight.
Great.
Anna.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share the recommendation for an SEL resource adoption for the elementary schools. I'm excited to have Julie with us here tonight, and then also as part of the Triton community moving forward. I'm going to talk a little bit about the process of reviewing the different curricula, and then share a recommendation why we're confident that this is the best program for the students at Triton. And then Julie can speak a little bit more about the recommended program and maybe a bit more about how it's going to roll out at the elementary schools. So this process was started a little bit later than we like to, because we wanted to make sure that Julie was here for the process and that had a voice in the program that was going to be recommended for adoption. So Kara Briley, the wellness coordinator, and I we first worked with the building principals to identify some priority areas. We were looking at programs that had evidence of reducing emotional distress, improving school climate and connectedness, improving social behaviors, and then also looking for a program that was really effective in a standalone lesson model, because there are a number of different programs that are sort of whole school implementation that, given our current structure, wouldn't have made sense for us to review. And then we're also looking for a program that's, of course, compatible with our current infrastructure in terms of technology, but also the programs that we already have in place. We didn't want this curricula to be fighting against anything that we already have. I just wanted to note that we did not include evidence of academic achievement as a criteria. And this was due to there's ample research showing that improved school connectedness and improved school climate are associated with increased academic achievement. So we kind of pulled that one off, understanding that some of these other priority areas could also ultimately positively affect academic achievement as well. So we gathered a representative group. We had teachers and administrators from the elementary level, and we began reviewing programs that CASEL, which is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, had identified as select programs, and this is sort of their highest rated program. So we reviewed those against our own criteria as well, gave the group opportunity to review some of the sample resources, and then identified some that they wanted the publishers to come in and be able to present them in a little bit more detail. From the publisher presentations, the group unanimously recommended the adoption of PATHs, which is promoting alternative thinking strategies. And some of the reasons why, besides the sort of priority areas that we've identified in alignment with those, is that out of the ones that were reviewed had a really high level of collaboration built into the program, communication for students, and gave students direct practice in these 5 competencies. So what the committee was also, this review committee was very interested in the level of really sort of hands-on student engagement within the program. So in addition to being aligned with sort of the highest ratings in CASEL, it's also recommended by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for bullying prevention effectiveness, which wasn't one of our priority areas, but was sort of something that we had talked about and sort of kept in the back of our mind as well. So I really strongly believe that curriculum is important. It does make a difference, and we need in all areas high quality evidence-based programming. And I do think that we found the best one for us here. All of the research has sort of been based on implementation with fidelity, which is more than we can offer with our current structure. So for instance, it's recommended that students engage in this 2 to 3 times per week throughout an entire school year. But given that Julie is split amongst 3 schools, we're not going to have that opportunity. So at this point, we don't sort of have the capacity to do this with fidelity, but Julie's going to be working through that, also working with individual schools to sort of target those lessons and build the ones that are going to have the most impact. I'm excited because I feel like we are finally providing all of our students with some tier 1 instruction. I think we've done a great job in sort of tier 2 social emotional supports over the years and tier 3. And hopefully we can decrease some of those supports that we need to in the higher tiers with this strong tier 1 program. So I'm happy to take any questions now, or I can turn it over to Julie to share a little bit about what this is going to look like at each one of the schools. She's been working with the principals to determine the best schedule for that.
Yeah, I think it probably makes sense to just have Julie keep going, and then there might be some questions that come up that she's going to answer already. So Julie.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you all. I'm really excited to be here. Just a little background on myself. I come from Boxford, Spofford Pond Elementary School. I was there for 17 years as a school counselor. So this is exciting to kind of stand and shift into a different role, but coming with my counseling and mental health background. I have a lot of experience working with various curriculums, working at grade levels, working in individual classrooms, working with a heavy special education population, small groups, large groups. So I've seen a lot, I've tried a lot, I've troubleshooted and experienced different programs and how I think what really engages students well. So I was really thrilled that when I was welcomed into the committee that they allowed me to just listen and be part of the decision making for the PATHS program. So I'm also feeling, it's definitely brand new, and I'm excited to see, how I can do the best job I can to reach all the students. I also am so excited to be part of an initiative where there's a proactive approach to our mental health for the students, with SEL being across the country, especially post-pandemic. This is such a huge need right now. And I was really excited to see this position posted because in my previous role, it was a lot of reactive and putting out fires and being spread in a lot of directions where there was such a need to reach the general education. And so I'm just super excited to be able to get into all these classrooms and teach skills for all students. So, and just to piggyback on what Anna said, we listened to 3 different vendors talking about their curriculums, and PATHS just seemed to be the most exciting, engaging, very age appropriate with K through 5 is PATHS, and then there's PATHS also promotes another program called the Mosey, which is for our 6th graders, and that's just it's more I would just say like age appropriate as far as how it's implemented with those students. But it just seems really, I mean, I can take questions. I don't, to be completely transparent, I haven't seen the curriculum entirely yet. We were only exposed to some sample lessons and listening to the company talk about it. But I can certainly, answer if you have any specific questions about that.
Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
So
Anybody have any questions?
Wow, that was an easy teller.
I just had one. You said the 6th grade piece was called the Mosey. Did I have that right?
Yes, correct.
And did they say anything? And obviously, like you said, you haven't seen it, but did they say anything about whether there would be any difficulty in 6th graders who haven't gone through the PATHS program and picking that up, or is it more standalone and will work there?
No, that's a really great point, and maybe Anna can help me with this, but I believe that each lesson, each grade builds upon the other. I believe though you could still do the Mosey program. I was looking at a sample lesson, and the content was about bullying and bystanders and talking about peer pressure, and certainly kids can still gain a lot from that standalone. But I think for the full fidelity is the real exciting kind of data that will be gathered is seeing our kindergartners reach 6th grade and see year after year that build upon each other and what they've gained with those skills. So I don't think that it's lost in just popping right in K through 6. But yes, the Mosey is part of the PATHS, like the creators, the program. It's all linked together. So it's not like a random curriculum that comes in. It's like part of their, it's their 6th through 8th curriculum.
Yeah, very, very similar to what we see with the curriculum in ELA, that we have like a K through 5 program and then a 6 through 8 program, which has a different name, but is still part of the same philosophy. So it should still spiral up.
Okay, thank you.
Marissa?
Thanks. So welcome, Julie. I
Thank
have
you.
I guess, questions that you may not have the answers to yet. I noticed in the documentation, one of the things it talks about is that the teachers are going to be attending so they can start incorporating it into their day. Is there any training for teachers, IAs, bus drivers, everyone that would be kind of I'm assuming just based on our past exposure to PBIS.
Right, PBS, exactly, yeah.
Right, there's a vocabulary, there's a set of expectations. I guess part of my question is,
Yeah.
is sort of something you envision you're doing and then it's sort of creeping through the population, or is there explicit training for all of the adults that are in our schools?
No, it's a really good point, and it's something our committee talked about. I wanted to really respect that each of the 3 schools seem to have a different program in place. Like I think it might be Newberry, who's really into zones of regulation, and then there's some other schools that have PBIS. And so I'm coming in to 3 schools with kind of different language, and where to really get the full fidelity of this particular program, we really need to use their language, and their vocabulary. However, with any curriculum and to really get teacher and community and school buy-in, I want to take a very soft kind of transition approach. And I think this first year is going to be very much like me going in, testing it out, trying it out, getting everyone on board, and then slowly phasing out the other curriculums, and maybe slowly taking down some of the zones of regulation posters, because I think it can be confusing if you're throwing a lot of different language at kids. Honestly, it's all kind of the same goal. We're all getting to kids about hitting those 5 core competencies and helping them be able to self-regulate and have self-management. But it would be really nice if across your district that it's, I should say our district now that I'm part of it, is that we all have the same language. So the answer to your question is yes, that I see that, but more of a long-term transitional approach, because I also I want to get the teacher buy-in. And I feel like if I step in and say, we're not doing zones anymore, that might not be super appreciated.
That is very fair. And I think you hit on another too, which was, how does this all work together? Because when I was looking at the materials that were up on the website, there does seem to be a lot of similarities. So you're kind of seeing a gradual transition until it's all paths is vision. Okay.
Absolutely. Right. And I think from what I understood, the principals were even talking about maybe me starting with the IAs and starting with some of those professional development opportunities that I can start to use those days to implement and start to talk about it. And then, I think we're going to be constantly meeting and kind of regrouping and seeing how can we make this work. I mean, I think it will be challenging with me in 3 schools. Oh, and I think I heard Brian mentioned too about how I'll be implementing in the 3 schools. As of right now, from my understanding, is I'll be spending 2 weeks per school at a time. And that I actually have a meeting with the principals in a few weeks just to kind of fine tune the schedule. But we were brainstorming on what makes sense, because if I did, it doesn't make sense to go a few days and jump around. I didn't want to do a month at each school, because then one school wouldn't see me for a while. So we were going to kind of see if the 2 weeks at a time would be the best kind of possibility with spreading around.
Okay, and I think that was the perfect segue to my last question. So how, in that you're there for 2 weeks at a time, how does this fit into a student's day? Is this something that's sliding in as a classroom get together during morning meeting? Is this something like life skills where we're taking a gym class to address it? Like, what is this?
Yeah. What is it coming out of, right? Yeah. What is it coming out of their day? Because it's a very tight schedule, and they have to hit all their academic, especially the older grades with MCAS. It's almost easier in the younger grades, but as they get older, I know that the schedule gets tighter and every minute counts. From what I just kind of learned today, the possibility is they might be bringing some classrooms together. So to maximize the time that I can be there more frequently, see them more frequently. And I don't know how that'll work. I'm going to be completely honest. I mean, my ideal would be small classrooms, because I think kids are more willing to talk and share and volunteer in their safe kind of classroom place. If you put, 40 kids together, will they talk and share as much? In my experience, not as much, but who knows? Maybe this curriculum will be super engaging, and I'll do my absolute best to help kids feel comfortable and, willing to talk. But I think it's going to be a lot of let's try it, and then let's talk about it. I mean, that's how I kind of work, is I want to be able to work as a team and a committee and share out to my observations, and then really engage the teachers. Because once I leave, I'd be interested to see how is that how is that working in the classroom? Like, are they using the language? Are kids, on the playground able to try some of those conflict resolution skills? Are there less referrals to the office? Are there less conflicts in the hallways? Time will tell. And that's, I think, all of our goals is to see those competencies, really strengthen in our kids. So.
I love this because I feel like we're thinking along the same line, like heading in the same direction. So two aren't questions here, it's just requests. One is, I'm assuming you're developing metrics so that we can look at this over time. So like every new curriculum that we bring in, I would love to see, Linda, okay, a check back in with the committee to kind of go over how things have rolled out, year and kind of looking at those just so we keep an eye on it. And then my second request would just be community engagement, making sure that there is good solid communication going out to our caregivers, because I think
of course.
This is something that's new. They've had an experience obviously already. So I think there are going to be some questions, and I think it's important.
Totally. And I think PACS has, the program that was really, that our committee really liked was that it has a whole community engagement. They have things already embedded in the program to reach out to parents and families. I'm a mom of two. I have a 12 and a 15-year-old, and I am always I'm like such a nosy body and what's going on in their schools. I have a middle and high schooler. So totally, I come from a mom perspective and, from this SEL. And that was something I really loved, is the program makes it so easy to do that. It reaches community, it reaches teachers, it reaches students. And I agree with you that.
Oh. I think we lost her. Is she frozen for everyone?
Yeah.
She's not going to like that freeze on the video. So just while she's pausing to think a little bit, I just wanted to confirm, right? So Julie's brand new, isn't technically even started yet till October or August 24th, but she's been meeting with principals. She's walking in on and clearly picking up and running with the system that we've been talking about since we finalized the budget and the position in March. Principals own a lot of this. When we talk about the community and the communication, the principals were all on board with, yes, NES uses the CARES acronym, and Pine Grove uses zones of regulation, but it's similar to our discussion about whether we're using ALICE for an active shooter or we're using the ADD approach. The concepts are the same. There's different language, but we're not, as we've been saying since February when we proposed this, we're not pulling the rug out from anyone, right? There's no value in walking in and saying, all right, here's brand new. An ELA curriculum? Yes. Even that, we're kind of phasing out some aspects of the older curriculum. But this is not a traditional curriculum, traditional implementation. So it's clearly, we have a tremendous resource in Julie, but there's lots of people working on this with her to implement that. So we will be getting, yes, you'll hear more about this. This is something we will certainly track and bring reports back. And even it's as we had described back in February when we proposed it, the ideal is putting a person at every school. So the sharing, we're going to have to figure out what works best. And doing kind of 2-week residencies right now seems like the best approach. Maybe halfway through the year that changes, but it is coming out of class time. It's not happening during special, because the question about PD and training, the best PD and training is going to be the conversations that Julie is having with students, with teachers and IAs all together. That's the value of this approach.
Yeah, I agree. My one concern with that is that it may leave out some of those important individuals. I mean, Julian specifically was talking about recess, right? A recess monitor is not necessarily always accessing, is not going to have access to those sessions. Same thing for bus drivers, where they're left as the only adults, right, with a bus full of kids. And they've learned one set of language and one approach. So I just want to make sure that, that this is going to be.
And that is routine, right? Those types of PAS cares that every discussions happen school-wide. I mean, I've seen Beth on buses and pulling drivers, right? I mean, it's kind of becomes part of the everyday discussions. So yes, that's imperative that they're brought in.
Excellent.
For sure. Yep.
Sorry, I am so sorry I got kicked out and now I don't have a camera. So I don't mind. I think Zoom was
We all
telling me
knew.
I was
We all knew
talking
you
too
were not
much.
just leaving.
It was telling me to stop talking. So I apologize.
Not a problem. Not a problem. We wrapped that one up. So I think Narissa's all set, right?
Okay, great.
So
Those are great questions. Thank you.
And Paul Goldner has,
Are we looking at just about 30-minute lessons? Is that about how long these are?
Yes.
30 minutes. Yeah, I think they range 20 to 30, but as far as scheduling, we're giving 30.
Yes.
I just wanted to say, seeing the scope and sequence and that's accessible for families is great. You know, I went and I looked at that in detail for my, rising kindergartner and rising second grader, and looking at that, like, yes, I want my kids going through that scope and sequence at those ages. It looks great. And that being able to put that out to families and say, this is what we mean when we're talking about social emotional learning. These are the types of lessons that they're going to have. This is going to be 30 minutes, 3 times a week or whatever. I think that's a great attribute of implementing a curriculum like this.
Yeah, and I think I might have gotten cut off or it was already said, but the program really engages the community and teachers, and it makes it really easy to do that. So I think there's a lot that goes home and it shares out what is going on within their child's classroom.
We also talked with the principals about, and not just for this, but for some of our other new areas, about doing a sort of display table at open houses as well, so that families could actually see some of the materials and ask questions if they wanted to. So they, I believe, proposed their dates for open house on 3 different dates this year, so that we could have both STEM and SEL at each one.
does anybody else have any questions? I think it's a great way to start out the school year with this new program and to ease into it rather than throwing it out there and hoping everybody catches on to it. I think it's a great way to start it.
So can I just throw in the one point we didn't say out there, but just to say it publicly, the total adoption, materials, implementation, and training is 13,385. So I know we just went through an ELA curriculum adoption that was measured in the quarters of millions. So this, I think it was 200 and some odd thousand. So this is not, we're not talking about another ELA adoption here, just to make sure that that is very clear.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the adoption of the K-6 SEL curriculum as presented and discussed?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? We're gonna have a roll call vote. Erin,
Yes.
Susanna,
Yeah.
Paul Goldner,
Yes.
Caitlin,
Yes.
Matthew,
Yes.
Paul Mayette,
Yes.
Narissa,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you for that approval. And Julie and Anna, thank you for being here to present that. You're, I was gonna say, I know, Anna, you're running off to a game, and Julie, you're free to leave. You do not need to stay for the rest of the meeting. Thank you for being part of it.
Great. Thank you very much. Have a good night, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you so much. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well, Julie.
Bye.
Can I just confirm, Caitlin, did that second come from you? Oh,
Narissa was a second. Erin moved and Narissa seconded.
The next item on the agenda is the marketing efforts update. The superintendent is going to provide an update on the marketing initiative we have been discussing over the last couple of years.
So I will make this very quick. You remember the last time we talked about this, I had a proposal from a marketing firm to do a full market analysis and plan, and the start the work was $50,000. That was just the first phase of learning what needed to happen. That was obviously, we talked with DCC, we had public conversations about that's not the kind of money that we're looking to invest. Andrea Tsai is a parent one student still in at the high school and one who graduated last year. She owns a marketing firm, Sci Communications. I met with her and talked through various things, items, ways to approach this. The proposal is about $9,950 roughly total. It includes two pieces. One is an actual spending time and planning through a marketing strategy. So that would include lots of conversations. We'll be with the committee talking through a best approach to communications that would result in a report that says, here's what we should be doing to more effectively communicate and engage. My guess is that will say more heavily on the media and the digital, and less in paper. But she'll take a look at all of the communication that comes out of schools and overall strategy to make a suggestion on improvements. The assumption isn't that it would then be something that she would implement, right? That's a plan that talks about how we would use our resources. Nicole, my assistant, is new. We have Katie Lakey, who's available. We've been launching a new website. So it'd be how best to use all those resources to improve our communications and understanding. Second piece of this is our logo, which the Triton logo, which is an upside down triangle with the word Triton struck through. When we partnered with Smart EDU, I was early in my tenure in central office, so we're talking 15 plus years ago. That was literally put up as a placeholder while we developed a logo. So number one, that's not a logo. And number two, we've had some struggles using our Viking when in certain situations where we've been ordering things and anything at the high school or putting paraphernalia. There are times that we've not been able to proceed with that logo because it is, in essence, the Minnesota Vikings logo recolored with white, navy, and Columbia blue. So the second piece of this is taking an opportunity to publicly and with public feedback, develop an actual Triton logo, right? Not, if you look next door to Pentucket developed a new logo, but they were also going through the process of renaming from the Sachems to the Panthers, right? So we're not talking about any type of rebranding. I'm sorry, changing our names and the actual logo, but rebranding the logo, streamlining all of our communications and kind of our presence to a more professional and consistent approach across the district. So that is, in essence, the proposal. This isn't a large enough contract that it requires your vote, but I certainly wanted to bring this to you and get feedback. If you dislike, have further thoughts on that before I proceed with her.
Well, from an aesthetic standpoint, I will say I love the idea of new logos. I've always felt that the just particularly gendered logo could be somewhat exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
So having something else in there, I think would be a great way to be, just help everybody feel that they're part of the Triton community. So that's I think a great step.
Narissa?
I was gonna say, I like this too. I like that it's kind of bite-sized, looking at things, I mean, I think your original plan was good to have a kind of broad looking at everything, right? You want it to be cohesive, but we now know what that costs. So I think I see this prioritization where you've said, this is what we need right away, right? And we can do some work around that to get what we need in the immediate future, and then take it kind of piece by piece rather than taking it as, I don't want to say it's not part of a process, but yeah. Taking it more of a bite-sized approach. One thing that I'm glad to hear you say more of it, but one of the things that I didn't see in the proposal itself was just having this being a student-centered process. Like we've always tried in the past to make a lot of this about, students. And I'm sincerely hoping that the actual, endeavor as it happens will be very student and community focused.
You talk the logo development specifically.
Kind of the entire process about how people,
Absolutely.
how students are consuming media, because I know, Kaylee was big on it,
Mhm.
making sure, right, that the students are getting all the relevant information, as well as kind of us, both communicating and marketing it out to the general community. Right. And then obviously things like logos and just kind of the look and feel of the letterhead that goes out. And I'm assuming that this will also somewhat carry over to things like graduation announcements and things like that.
Mhm.
Just making sure that, it's kind of a student focused or student centered process as we're
Yep.
going through it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love it. And I think the plan will be more about, it will absolutely include the feedback, but that's more the kind of the first phases of what needs to be done. And then certainly what I like about this is we've got resources that we can utilize within the district, people resources. And so I think, Andrew's approach is helping us better utilize the people we have to better communicate, not for lack of effort by anyone, but hearing from people, like you said, listening, and then doing things differently. And then for the logo, certainly, I mean, I think that's, and again, I didn't put everything in here that she's given me. Does anyone know Andrea Sai? So Newbury parent, pure energy. So she gave me all kinds of samples, but one of the things that they'll provide is and I'm blanking on the name of it. It's a booklet that's the standard, right? So if you are putting anything out, this is the standard district letterhead. This is the standard Pine Grove letterhead, high school letterhead. If you wanted kind of like a faux letterhead that's more soft with a logo, then that's going to be a separate standard. But fonts universal, colors universal, so that whole. I think you were in marketing. Weren't you nervous? Someone you probably know what that's called.
Collateral.
But that. Say it again.
Collateral.
Yes, there was that term, and then there was some kind of with the word standard.
Style guide.
Style guide. That was definitely used too. Still thinking of another word, but those are all great words. Yes. So you all know what I'm talking about. So, so thank you.
And I know they have way more funding than we do. But recently, I guess kind of in the past, I hadn't looked at vocational technical schools a whole lot. A lot of them very much have this going on already. And the more I've looked at their social media in recent months, the more impressed I have been. And I mean, I think it's a phenomenal thing if you can get it going, because the level of communication, just saying like, this is who we're appreciating this week, and bringing names and, individuals to the forefront to show what you've got in the district, whether it's students or staff, is a phenomenal thing to do. And just backing that up with, their pieces of their that word that I can't come up with. I'm gonna be on the same line as you, Brian. I just can't come up with that word right now. Yeah, exactly. But like, parts of their vision and stuff like that, just to have it repeated and out there, but again, it costs obviously more than we've had to spare in the past, for sure, or even in the current.
Agreed.
Does anybody else have any comments or anything? Brian, I think it's a great way to start it off. I mean, I think there's a lot of exciting things going to be happening at Triton this year. So we just have to wait and see how it all flows out.
Agreed. All right. Very good. Thank you.
The next item is the executive session. At this time, the committee is expected to go into executive session for the purpose of planning the negotiations with union personnel, specifically the Ask Me Unit A and B custodians. We will not return to open session. Can I please have a motion?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of planning for negotiations with union personnel, specifically the Ask Me Unit A and B custodians, not to return to open session.
Second.
Can I have a roll call vote? Erin?
Yes.
Susanna?
Yes.
Paul Goldner?
Yes.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
Paul Mayette?
Yes.
Marissa?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well.